All right, to finish off our various forms of equations that we've been solving, the last type we're going to look at is absolute value equations. Absolute value equations are fairly simple. There's not a lot of factoring or other parts involved, but we do need to kind of use a little bit of common sense when it comes to absolute value. If we're solving an absolute value equation, here's like the most basic you could possibly see. Absolute value, so these bars here, absolute value, just a reminder. Absolute value of x equals 5. When we're talking about absolute values, how far away is the number from 0? So in order, this might be a good one to see see on a number line, but you'd say what number is okay to get 5 away, if 5 spaces away from 0. What numbers could you be at? Well, you could be at positive 5. And you could be at negative 5. So if we're solving this, we could say x is equal to negative 5 and x is equal to positive 5. Like in other equations, we're going to, this is kind of the extra strategy goes with absolute value, but like other equations, we're going to keep some of the same ideas that you'll see in the couple examples we're going to do here. So for instance, again, here's another basic absolute value equation. You could think to yourself, well, what numbers are going to fit here? What is going to give me an absolute value of 3? Well, okay, if I have 5 minus 2, it's obviously going to equal positive 3. But you could also have this equation, if x is equal to, if you can get negative 3, if you can get this to equal negative 3, that would work out also. So how would you get it to be negative 3? Well, you'd say negative 1 minus 2 equals negative 3. So to solve absolute value equations, hopefully you're kind of getting the idea now. We need to take this equation and we need to break it into 2 pieces. We need to see when this portion in the absolute value bars, when it equals the positive number, but if it's going to be the absolute value is going to be positive 3, you could also say, okay, when is this going to equal to negative 3? Because a result of 3 or a result of negative 3, both of those are going to end up being positive 3 once you take the absolute value. So the idea here, and I said would be similar to other problems we've done, is that you want to isolate the absolute value. Not every question is going to require that, but if we isolate the absolute value, and then we take the positive and negative answers, negative values of your equation, that's going to give us what values of x we could possibly use. So thinking about absolute value of 3 works for 3 or negative 3, so that's kind of what you want to think about when you come to absolute values. So, we're kind of building up one at a time, but again, if the absolute value of what's inside the absolute value bar is going to be positive 8, well, it could be 8 inside this, or it could be negative 8. So you want to say 2x minus 5 equals 8. Figure out what x is. 2x minus 5 equals negative 8. And figure out what x is. So x could be 6.5, 6.5, or x could be negative 1.5. The only caution I have for you, when we're looking at absolute value here, and this is not one that we're going to see right now, but if you end up with an equation, it doesn't really matter what's inside the absolute value bar. But you're saying the absolute value of something equals a negative number, let's just say negative 2. Realize for this kind of problem, there would be no solution. We're not going to do any of those right here. Okay, moving on to a little bit harder examples here. Now, so here's where the isolating the absolute value part becomes important. The steps we've seen already aren't too very difficult, but we want to isolate. Isolate meaning alone. Get this portion of the problem all by itself. So you're using the same opposite operations you're solving your basic linear equations with. You have 5 times that absolute value. You have subtract away 15. So you do the same order as always. You're going to add that 15 first to isolate the absolute value, and then divide by that 5. So same opposite operations to get that absolute value all by itself. Once you get the absolute value alone, again, we're saying, remember, this inside this parentheses could equal 3, or it could equal negative 3. Either way, the absolute value is going to be positive 3. So 1 minus 4x equals 3, or 1 minus 4x is equal to negative 3. So solve. All of this process is just a bunch of linear equation steps. So divide by negative 4, x is negative 1/2, minus 1, divide by negative 4, and x is 1. So x is 1, x is negative 1/2. Notice, we're just using linear steps, linear equation steps, opposite operations. Simple steps. All right, with that in mind, I'm going to leave you with the most difficult problem, but still not that bad. The only problem is it's got some fractions in it. Try this, bring it to class on Friday. Don't forget, you'll have a short quiz on the notes. We'll not include this problem, but we will go over this afterwards.